Welcome into the pump fake, everybody. Heading into week 7 in the NFL, getting closer and closer to that midway point. Jarrett Bailey, joined by my good friend Mike Tanier. Hello, my friend.
Happy Friday.
Absolutely. Are you like a horror guy? Do you enjoy the horror movie genre of Halloween?
Very little. No, not
Okay.
at all. I don't like slasher type stuff. I'll go back and watch the ancient things, like Universal Horror, and that's about it.
Okay. Because the big craze right now is that new Terrifier 3 movie. It's like the number one movie in the world. And I hadn't seen the first two. Me and my girlfriend watched the first movie a couple days ago, and the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It is fantastic.
Okay. Is it truly scary or is it like schlocky?
It's gory, I'll say that much. It's pretty gory, but like the whole shtick of like the slasher is that he's a clown and he thinks it's funny. He doesn't say a word, but like his mannerisms and everything is just like it's a typical like slasher movie, but it's very fun and I enjoyed it. So I'll be watching the second one before I go and see the third one. But I'm surprised I haven't seen them yet, but they are very much my approval. I just didn't know if you enjoyed that type of stuff.
No, and I'm kind of out of the loop of it because, like, when I was a kid, it was popular, and then I started not paying attention. And when my kids were teens, I started to like interface with what they were seeing and all. And now I'm back out of it. The only horror movie I'm aware of in theaters right now is there's another one of those Smile movies.
Yeah, I didn't love the first one. That one just wasn't my cup of tea.
No, I didn't. So, like, last thing that was even quasi horror that I watched was Five Nights at Freddy's with my kid. Like,
oh, okay. That's based off a video game too, right?
yeah, and like my kids were into the video game because they were of that age. Like they were, 10 when that video game came out. And the whole idea behind it, it was like the movie was almost like supposed to be a slasher movie, but PG-13 that you could like show to a preteen like Mormon kid or whatever, and like that level of scary. So my youngest is kind of cracking up at it and like pointing out the production values and all because he's interested in film and all. And I'm like, yeah, this is pretty lame. But at the same time, I love the idea, a haunted Chuck E. Cheese. That
it is a very fun idea. Yes, I very much agree. That's funny. I had something pop into my head when you were talking about that, and it completely just escaped me. Oh, that's gonna bug me. Maybe it'll come back.
Okay.
But yeah, in terms of the NFL, where we do this podcast for, we'll start in my neck of the woods with the Steelers. They play on Sunday night, the second time in 3 weeks they play on Sunday night. They're going to play in prime time again next week. So 3 out of their ensuing 4 games will be in prime time. They play the New York Jets, who just traded for Davante Adams, which was the most inevitable thing to happen this season out of any sort of like roster move where they fire Robert Saleh, they lose to the Bills, they bring in Davante Adams. It's been a busy week and a half for general manager / owner Aaron Rodgers over in New York. They're 2-4. The Steelers are making a quarterback change. Russell Wilson's going to start. That hasn't been announced yet or anything, but if you read the tea leaves and if you watch what George Pickens says, Russell Wilson.
George Pickens is a tea leaf now, yes.
So Russell Wilson's going to be the guy under center. I'll just give you I texted you about it as soon as like all this stuff happened. I was like, this is so stupid. Right. And I still feel that way. And it's nothing against Russ per se. Right. But it just doesn't make sense to do right now. Fields has played admirably well, not great, not horrible. It's been kind of just a middle of the pack, maybe slightly above middle of the pack guy this year. But he's put them in position to win games in each week. Their 2 losses have been by a combined 6 points. They showed up really well against Vegas. Their 32-point output was the second most in the post-Ben Roethlisberger era. So that shows you how much the offense has really just dipped since he retired.
Right.
Yeah. So it doesn't make sense to me. I'll happily eat crow as a Steelers fan if Russ goes out and plays well. I just don't think that doing it against this defense when you have a banged up offensive line and Fields' legs have become such a big part of the offense, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Right. You talked about like slasher clowns and horror clowns. Now you've got Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson. It's like a Joker folie à deux.
Have you seen that, by the way? I didn't watch it.
Oh, no. I only saw bits and pieces of the first Joker, and it's like, this isn't for me. I don't need to see Taxi Driver in the DC universe.
Yeah.
I want my Joker out there, Batman, not like this sort of, incel with a point of view. And we're going to add like 8 songs to it. Like, okay, I'm
very much out of it as well.
But I'm proud of myself for putting that joke together while you were.
That's good. I think that's very good.
I'm extremely proud. And again, I've been a Justin Fields skeptic, etc. I don't see why you're doing this now.
Yeah.
For all the reasons you said, I don't see why we're doing this now. They needed his running ability. I've been a bit of a critic of how much of the Steelers' offense is an interception that's negated by a roughing the passer penalty. But you get roughing the passer penalties when you're Justin Fields and you're running yourself into trouble. Now maybe Russ can look helpless, the helpless old man version of the roughing the passer penalty, but you lost your center this week. So I know there are backups all over the line. I'm kind of losing track of all the backups on the line.
They have a lot of injuries up front. They just got left guard Isaac Samalo back, if not last week, the week before. I can't remember exactly when. But then you lose Zach Frazier. He's probably not going to be back until after the bye week. Right guard James Daniels is gone for the year, so rookie Mason McCormick is playing there. Troy Fatanu's gone for the year, who's also a rookie, so they got Broderick Jones playing there. So they've had to move a lot of pieces around. Right.
So you're rotating pieces around, and I would want continuity and I'd want scrambling ability at quarterback right now. And he has not played even as a skeptic, he's not played his way to the bench by any stretch of the imagination. Again, he played well enough last week. Again, I brought up, one of the key plays that kind of worked in his favor. You get fumble recoveries and stuff like that help you out there. You still get a big win. This is kind of a change for change's sake that feels weird under these circumstances.
So. Yeah, very much so. And even in his worst game passing wise, which I do believe was this past week against the Raiders, overall, I think he had at worst a C game. It wasn't anything where you're like, oh, he's awful, because he was still able to make plays with his feet. But he definitely missed some throws. And I think that's my whole tinfoil hat theory is that when the Steelers signed Wilson, he was promised a starting job. But that came at a point when Kenny Pickett was still on the roster and Justin Fields was not. So promises made in March, I just frankly don't care about in October. And of course, there's, a business side of things and there's a bunch of stuff that happens that we're never going to know about. So whatever that may be, I get it. But regardless, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that, putting him out there, everybody's like, oh, it's going to make the passing game better. Well, I don't think that even with the missed throws, you're throwing to Van Jefferson and Connor Hayward as your next top targets opposite of George Pickens. It's not as if he's playing with, the greatest show on turf.
Right. And he's not playing behind a great line. And Najee is hurt right now, and Patterson is hurt. So you're even relying on your running game is tricky. So you're going to take out a running option, which is the Fields zone read when you do this. Maybe it is a business decision on the other side. I missed the point where Russ is so powerful now he can dictate like that.
It's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy.
Or that Russ is his agents would be like, look, this is the deal you made, and the next free agent isn't coming here. Really, you're going to stiff arm us on this guy who's at the very tail end of his career? I don't know if that's the case. I mean, one of the theories I share with you is that Arthur Smith might be looking at it right now saying, I've emptied my playbook of the things that we can run with Justin. If we do this other package with Justin, I don't think he knows it. I don't think he's good at it, etc. And we need to make the switch now. I could see that as a possibility. That's the kind of thing I would see after I lost to the Jets. After I lost to the Jets, it's like, look what limitations we had here. Now's the time. Now you can sell it to the locker room. Now you can sell it to the media. Why are we doing it before that, coming off of a pretty convincing win?
Yeah. My thing with that, seeing Arthur Smith talk to the media yesterday, the language that he was using, it feels like he wants Justin Fields. I would have been on board with it, with the thing that you said, had he not been like, the offense has been playing well, and now we've got to, get Russell, more acquainted and everything. He's just very much tiptoeing around the idea. Albert Breer yesterday was on the Rich Show, and he said, there's plenty of people within the Steelers organization that just want them to stick with Fields for, the litany of reasons we've already discussed. But regardless, let's talk about the other side of this game. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets 2-4 coming off a loss to the Buffalo Bills. They go out, they get Davante Adams, which again, felt inevitable ever since the trade talks began with Vegas. I do think they're going to win this game and get to 3-4, but I don't know if that's gonna, fix. I don't think Davante Adams fixes all of the issues with the Jets, especially all the ones that seem to be taking place behind the scenes and Rodgers doing his Rodgers stuff. But not surprising to see that he went there.
No, the betting market keeps me grounded on this as this trade happens and the urge just to write 10,000 words about it and what it means, et cetera, et cetera. And then you go to, and I just pulled up the odds right before we came on, and the Jets are plus 155 to make the playoffs. To make the playoffs, they're at plus 155. They're down there with like the Colts and like I think the Cardinals are around that. I'd have to go get it exactly right. Goodness. So this is what we're talking about for this team. And what happened there with that Adams deal is they raised the floor in terms of will they miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
They went from in danger to miss the playoffs till plus 155. They're still not necessarily favorites to make it, but the scenario where they eradicate the possibility that they lose games to like the Tua-less Dolphins and things like that. They eradicate that element by raising their floor. Nothing about this suggests that they pulled themselves into the category of the Texans, of the Chiefs, of the Ravens, of the Bills. Nothing suggests this, and I don't know what would at this point because it seems like a systemic situation where this is a team built to appease a quarterback as opposed to a team built to really compete with the contenders in the division in the conference.
Yeah, I agree. The Bills have a 2-game lead on both the Jets and the Dolphins in this division already. I think that with a couple more, they play Tennessee this weekend. We'll touch on that game in a little bit. But if they stack a few more wins, I think that this division is going to be wrapped up before Thanksgiving. So I think at best right now, the Jets are playing for a wild card spot, which to their credit and to their advantage, the AFC's been kind of down this year. Everybody's just kind of in a crapshoot with each other. So they could come out of this as like the 7 or 6 seed, but I don't view them as any sort of like legit contender, especially with just all of the drama going on.
And you see some teams just sort of tapping out in the AFC.
The Browns are done. I think Tennessee's pretty much done. The Patriots are done.
Out. The Jaguars have tapped out some of these secondary teams. So it's like, well, now you can really like make the short list.
Yeah.
Broncos are on the short list still because they won last night and the Broncos have beaten the Jets. Like that's the kind of worry that's in the back of your mind for the Jets. It's like, we make it to 9-8 and we lost a head-to-head.
We lost to Bo Nix in the effing rain
at home. Right. By the way, I'm surprised Greg Zuerlein has avoided the wrath of Rodgers.
Yeah, he missed a couple kicks against Buffalo that could have really helped them win that game. So I agree.
Game winner against the Broncos. I'm guessing Rodgers doesn't know kickers exist. He probably doesn't know Greg Zuerlein's name. It's like you with the hat, or that's like Hackett and everybody just says, we can't go to the kicker market for you, man.
Right.
You don't know what the kicker market's like, man. We can't do it. There's just no way. He's like, we'll call Mason Crosby. We'll get him in here. It's like, Packers tried. He's on a yacht somewhere. He's been eating buffalo wings nonstop. We can't do this. And that's how Greg Zuerlein has kept his job.
That's funny. So yeah, that's kind of the Jets situation right now. We'll start making our way through the Sunday slate. Another London game. We're gonna have to be up at 9:30 to watch. What are the odds during Patriots Jaguars that they're gonna cut to Doug Peterson on the sideline? He's just gonna be deep throating a croissant or a crumpet or something, just calling plays in between buys. He's like, trips left, yeah, motion right, Z slant, X fade. If not, cancel the double Z tricky X bomb. Whatever the play call may be. I think he's talking about checked out. He's done. He's
a checked out guy in general. It'd be strawberries and cream. That's what I think he'd be going
for.
He'd be having breakfast at Wimbledon over there on the sideline. But the play calling is what it is. It's the entire structure of that team right now. I've actually blanked last week's loss from my brain. Like, if I remember, the defense quit in the second half of that game.
Basically, yeah. The Gabe Davis dropped 3 touchdowns by himself. Brian Thomas dropped 1.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence is just kind of looking distraught out there because he's throwing to paint cans, and Brian Thomas, who even on just had a bad day overall. This team is, and Doug Peterson, by the way, came out and said, in this game, might be first to 20 wins. Like, okay, dude, you're really just telling us what you expect here. Like, whatever. I think Jacksonville, came into the season with high expectations because they had the built-in excuse, which, by the way, I leaned on in terms of, okay, Trevor got hurt at the tail end of last year. They still expected him to do a lot, and he just couldn't. So I came into the season saying that they're going to be a playoff team. that is very much backfired. Ryan Nielsen and the defense haven't really done anything outside of the first couple weeks. So yeah, this feels like we talk about teams that have tapped out. Jacksonville is all but done.
And that's it. So that's why I don't talk necessarily. I guess I do talk about the third and fourth down play calling because that gets very weird with Doug Peterson. It's just this team goes out there and like they just find ways to not execute properly. And again, even a couple of weeks ago, I was saying, I hate the fire the Jaguars coach on the flight home from London joke that we've been doing since Gus Bradley or Jack Del Rio or somebody. Yeah. But like they keep putting themselves in this position where you think, well, this is how this could go. Yeah. And that's kind of where we're at again. I don't know what the Patriots even have in the tank at this point.
They got Drake May, who played like admirably last week in his debut against a good Texans team, made some good throws deep.
And he had a knee injury in practice. Like, where'd that knee injury come from? Well, I don't want to talk about the past. The knee injury came from getting about 15 sacks behind that offensive line. But we can't admit that truth. Because then we'd be back to saying, well, wait, maybe we should have just let Brissett go out there and take this punishment if we're down the fifth string offensive line. And that's the fear that I have in that game. May going out there gimpy. They still have Hines Allen. They've still got Walker. They still got some guys up front that can get to the quarterback. And again, that Patriots offensive line, I have no idea who these humans are at this point. No, I've never heard of these people. City Sal is like the most popular guy, I think, at this point.
Yeah, this game is basically going to be, all right, let's see what Drake May can do, and let's see if Doug Peterson will keep his job. That's going to be the implications of this game.
I don't stand for coaches getting fired. He should be fired if they can't beat this team under these circumstances.
Agreed. Buffalo and Tennessee, speaking of big trades, we talked about Davante Adams, the Buffalo Bills trade for Amari Cooper from Cleveland. Going from Cleveland to Buffalo and going from Deshaun Watson to Josh Allen has to be like going from sitting in the electric chair to like Beverly Hills. Like that's got to be the greatest feeling on earth for Amari Cooper to get the call and be like, hey, we traded you to Buffalo. Like, oh, yeah? No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. And this is different. I think Davante Adams might have a little more in the tank than Amari Cooper at this point. Yeah. Although, again, it's hard to say because Amari was in such a hopeless case. And Adams never quite in that hopeless a case, or at least he was like enjoying the fact that he was getting paid a lot to do what he did. But there's a difference between lowering the floor to, maybe we can make the playoffs, to we've cut out some of the margin for error for being a Super Bowl team. And that's what you get here. I think you insert Cooper as a committee receiver. You don't insert him as like, now we have to funnel the offense through this guy. But he's a committee receiver who replaces Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who can't get on the field, or Mac Hollins, who is kind of like your replacement level fast guy in an offense, goes from team to team being that guy. That's a significant help because, again, it takes away the potential for a loss in one of these games where, they were able to get the tight ends and get Shakir covered and we didn't have an answer. Now you've got another answer.
Yeah, and I think that, he's coming off 2 seasons where he had over 1,100 yards in each of those seasons, and he's been open this season. It's just he was playing with an awful historically awful quarterback.
Ball bouncing up to him. It's not good. It's amazing. Yes.
Yeah. So when you put him into an offense, and I think for the Bills, that whole everyone eats mentality went away very quickly after the game against Houston, where Khalil Shakir didn't play, and they're like, all right, we're going to try funneling this thing through Mac Hollins, and then Josh Allen went 9 of 30 because no one could get open. So I think if anything, this just gives you a field stretcher, a guy who can still separate. And just draws attention away from guys like Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, and opens up the field a little bit more. So this is overall a good move for the Bills and one that they needed to make. Now they're returning home after a 3-game road trip where they won 1 of 3 games to host a Tennessee team that, I don't know. I'm just waiting to see what Will Levis does this week. It's been must-watch TV for Will Levis every week, and we're going to see what he does in Buffalo. They are 8.5-point dogs to the Bills. I'm all in. Will Levis, Josh Allen. Let's go.
I would take the Bills at 8.5. I'm starting to think I would go in that direction because
I think so too.
Make amazing mistakes. He can give you he can take 4 points in the other direction. On that. And one thing I watched a lot of Cooper, which means I watched a lot of Deshaun. Oh gosh, after the trade to feel a little more comfortable talking about it. And one thing I will say about Cooper is he's generally getting the top cornerbacks coverage. Whether he's getting open as consistently as he used to, the number 1 cornerback is often on him. Going vertical with him, often bringing a safety with him, that's going to help the Bills because, again, that creates opportunities for Shakir that could take some pressure off Keon Coleman that can let Samuel do his little slotty slot thing, and the tight ends can get open when there's space on top of them.
Absolutely. What could be the game of the 1 o'clock window, even with the Lions and Vikings playing. We'll talk about that. Packers, Texans. Yeah, sign me up for Jordan Love, CJ Stroud. Maybe a Super Bowl preview. I don't know. I picked the Packers to come out of the NFC earlier in the offseason. I'm still sticking with that. I'm excited for this, man. The Packers have been really good this season. They've showcased all of their weapons in different weeks. 1 week it's been Watson. Another week it's been Reed. Dontavian Wicks has gotten involved. Romeo Doubs. Josh Jacobs has been a really nice addition. Defensively, Xavier McKinney is just intercepting passes every week. So he looks like money well spent. And Houston's one of the best teams in the AFC right now. So I'm excited. This is going to be a TV game for me. The one that I have showing by itself on one TV, and then we'll have Red Zone on the other. So I'm excited to see what these two young superstars are going to do. Over under is 47.5. I hope we get some fireworks. I hope we get a 35-33 game.
That would be fun. I worry about every over now when I start betting.
I do too.
Although, like the guys at FTN, Aaron Schatz, and those guys, the old Football Outsiders, pointed out that offense has rebounded, and and they're like, well, it's too high safeties. It's not about the too high safeties; it's the performance against the blitz and things like that. And it's central tendency, guys. The statistics tend to clump back towards the middle. You guys are statisticians, right. You know this. That's what's happening. Notice how we memory hold the 2 weeks that Jordan Love was gone. Like they're already like completely memory hold.
Yeah, well, let's see. Malik Willis came in and they won 2 games where they ran for like 3 trillion yards against the Colts. And then he had like this really long touchdown pass against Tennessee. And then Jordan Love came back, wore a Brett Favre jersey, had the most Brett Favre game of his life against the Vikings, threw the most hilarious pick six in the history of time against the Rams, and they still won that game. So he's been Favre-esque. Like
he has these sudden what's going on moments.
Yeah.
but mixed with
holy shit, that was crazy. Yeah.
It's like I have 4 touchdowns, and now it's time to experiment. The Cardinals could come back on you, man. Please don't experiment.
I think that's exactly what it is. Like they'll be up comfortably, and he'll be like, "All right, let's see if I can do this actually." And if I can't, fuck it. The defense will get the ball back. I don't care. We're up by 10 with like 5 minutes left against a team that we should beat.
The golfer with like the 12-stroke lead. Let's see if I can hit it through that tree. Maybe I can hit it through that tree now because I can do it. It's the urgency gap in this game that fascinates me. I'm trying to like range find on whether either of these teams are Super Bowl level Super Bowl contenders. Mm-hmm. But the Texans can kind of do whatever they want because they're going to win their division. Yeah. And the Packers, if they take a loss here, they could be 3 games behind the Vikings at that point with a head-to-head loss?
Yeah, if the Vikings win, then they'll be 6-0, and then the Packers will be back at 500 or 400 somewhere in that range.
Their margin for error stinks as well as they played with their backup quarterback out there. Their margin for error stinks. And that's why, for the Packers, I haven't quite seen the complete game of dominance because it wasn't quite a complete game of dominance against the Cardinals. I guess it was against the Titans, but for heaven's sakes, it was the Titans. And they came roaring back against the Vikings. Haven't seen it from the Texans either because they go flat. They go in these penalty sprees. They stop running the ball for a while, etc. I want to see who has a complete game. Which of these 2 teams can do that on Sunday?
Yeah, the Texans had a weird game against the Jaguars a few weeks ago. Again, that they probably should have lost, but Doug Peterson made sure that they didn't.
Oh yeah.
And even against the Bears, like defensively they were pretty solid, but offensively they had a lot of ebbs and flows there. So I could agree with you on that front. They're missing Nico Collins too, so they're going to lean a little bit heavier on Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. Maybe Joe Mixon, by the way, has been a great signing for them. He's gotten the run game going, which is something that they wanted to do. That's why they traded. I think they traded like a 7th round pick for Joe Mixon. They didn't give up hardly anything. So I'm excited for this, man. I think that, in terms of where I want to lean in victory, I might lean a little bit towards Green Bay just because they're at home. And I think eventually the Texans are going to come down a little bit and, start adding losses. But regardless, very excited about this one. I talked about the Vikings, Lions, talk about teams that were kind of waiting to come down. Eventually, you think the Vikings are going to come down a little bit. Playing at home against a Lions team that starting to look like the Lions of old. They're starting to run like fun plays where they throw touchdown passes to Jared Goff. And you're like, all right, Ben Johnson's figured some stuff out. now we're going to see what this team can do as a whole. I do think that the Vikings get their first loss this week, but again, another game that could be very fun. Very hesitant on this over too. It's 50.5. I'm taking the under on that somewhat comfortably, just because the Vikings defense and Lions defense have both been good, but this is still going to be one of those games in the NFC North where, coming into this year, this division was like, all right, it'll probably be Lions, Packers, and then the other two teams could be fun. But all four teams really in the mix right now, and that's a lot of fun going on in the NFC North.
You see, the 49ers people have gaslit us all. Like, you went through that entire intro. Now, when you go through the 49ers intro, you will reflexively talk about the Christian McCaffrey injury and its stunning impact on this team. Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg in 37 places. Yeah. He is their only edge rusher. Their number 2 edge rusher, Davenport's been out for weeks and weeks and weeks. Yeah. Their primary backup has been out for weeks and weeks and weeks. This is the most significant injury in the NFL right now, but because it's not a 49ers injury, we have to sort of blue sky. I don't know why the Lions are playing poorly on defense this week. It's because their pass rusher is Alan McNeil and the Houston kid that they bring off the bench when they're desperate. I think this is another Vikings win because of that. Because and they also Emmanuel Mosley is hurt. He's hurt, but no, I'm the other guy, Carlton Davis.
Carlton Davis, who they got from Tampa. Yeah.
Protocol. If he doesn't play, Justin Jefferson is going to be covered by the rookie Terrion Arnold. That's going to be 4 DPIs probably. And again, I can be skeptical about the Vikings, but I'm stuck in this place where it will show me where the loss is going to be against a team that is at full strength, and can stand toe to toe with them. And the more I think about the Vikings, the more I realize that 2 years ago they won 13 games. Last year, they won 7 games with
they won 7 with Josh Dobbs and just a bunch of randos that were third stringers.
And I think Trevor Siemian was in there for a while. I think he left.
God,
no, that can't be right. He was with the Jets or something. But yeah, it's and Jefferson was out for a bunch of that too. It's
he missed a lot of time.
There's clearly some things on this team that work right, that find a way to manufacture wins. How stunning is it? Yes, they've had a tough schedule. How stunning is it that they're going to be a good team this year? So, that I'm leaning on the Vikings because I think the Lions can overcome that injury to Hutchinson. It just they need somebody to step up. I don't know who that is. They might need to get somebody off the trade deadline. I don't know who that is right now.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's kind of pointing towards Max Crosby as potentially being that guy, just because. All right,
he's more a co-owner of the Raiders than Brady right now. There's no way. There is no.
You don't think that he would want to trade?
Mark Davis can't eat that money right now. He can't even eat that money. He would say, "Tom, please go pay Max." That's where we would be at this point.
That's fair. I hadn't considered how cash poor Mark Davis seems to be right now. That's a good point. Right. I think that we need to start really acknowledging Kevin O'Connell as a top 5 head coach because of the things that he has done with different quarterbacks over the last 3 or so years. Sam Darnold coming in on a 1-year, $10 million deal. They lose McCarthy. Everybody's like, all right, this will probably be another middling season. I mean, we talked about it ahead of the season starting. I was like, yeah, you could talk me to 8 wins for the Vikings. And now they're gonna shatter that relatively with ease. Darnold right now is playing the best football of his career. And I just wrote about it for SB Nation in terms of how these cast off quarterbacks, once they find their way to these offensive gurus, they start to figure some stuff out. And Darnold is the most recent example of that. I think that Kevin O'Connell has worked his way into the top 5 head coaching conversation. And, we're seeing these modern offensive guys from that McVay/Shanahan tree really stem out and become their own guys. And O'Connell's at the top of that right now.
Yeah, he doesn't have the cutesy poo scheme that's fun to talk about on YouTube, like Mike McDaniel. The team's just out there prepared and executing properly and ready to play, but they're running plays that look like, just regular old plays, not something where 17 guys go in motion. So you don't get that, but what you get are results. And that's what we're seeing this year. And again, like you said, last year, manufacturing it out of these quarterbacks, out of these situations, keeping anything going, that was a feather in the cap of O'Connell, who also lets Flores run his side of the ball and do things his way.
Absolutely. And Sam Darnold right now has a higher EPA per play than CJ Stroud and Patrick Mahomes. So didn't think I'd be saying that going into week 7, but here we are.
We're only 1 week. Well, I think 1 week of Darnold into not Sam Tember anymore. So I think he's
not Sam Tember.
No longer Sam Tember. It's Stroudtober. I don't know. Brocktober.
Brocktober. That's a fun one.
Purdy. Yeah.
I like that. Let's see. What other games can we kind of gloss over real quick? Colts, Dolphins. We don't need to go in deep on that. That's probably going to be a gross game. I'll take the under 43.5 on that comfortably.
Yeah. I mean, Richardson should be coming back. I don't know if that's a plus overall or not.
We talked about Love making. I think that Anthony Richardson is the Patrick Mahomes of Jordan Loves, where he's just like he'll make incredible throws, but he's going to make like 3 throws a game. You're like, what in the hell are you seeing, dude?
He's the Cam Newton of Brock Osweiler's. I have no idea. He's the Mark Sanchez of Josh Allen's. I don't know.
Those are both so much better than what I said.
Oh, God.
That's good. All right. I'm glad that we talked about that real quick so we can get that great soundbite. This is going to be good. Seahawks, Falcons. I think that Seattle, they're +3 in this game. Kind of leaning toward them. I like what Mike Macdonald's done defensively for them. Atlanta has been like kind of fun, but they've won a lot of their games in like really close, wonky fashion. And I think that I think Seattle is the team that I like in that game.
Your injury report in the secondary for the Seahawks, Reek Wallen and one of the other corners, Trey Brown. All the cornerbacks that aren't Witherspoon were on the injury report on Wednesday. Check on that. Check on their offensive line injuries as well. They had a big defensive line injury rash earlier in the year, and that's when Goff was had a perfect game against them. Most of those guys are back, but now the secondary is out. So I think what I see with the Seahawks right now is it's this moving target of what catastrophe is happening on the team. If they go out there, I know they're going out there with a banged up offensive line, and a banged up secondary, I don't see them beating the Falcons right now. There's something fluky about the Falcons, but also they are very balanced. They do well. They run well. They pass well. They have 0 pass rush, but they seem to play in the back 7 bend and no break pretty well. So I don't think the Seahawks have what it takes right now. I never make any firm assertions about the Falcons, but I'm worried about the Seahawks right now because of injuries.
Is DK Metcalf on trade watch, do you think? We saw him on Thursday Night Football on the phone with Ryan Grubb saying, hey, Grubb, can we pass it past the effing sticks? And seemed very pissed off at life in general. Had 2 touchdowns called back because of penalties, which cost me money. Not that anybody cares about that whatsoever. I get that. But I just wanted to put that out there to vent my frustrations with the Seattle Seahawks. So is that a guy that you might keep an eye on in terms of potential, like, somewhat surprising?
Yeah. I was on Vancouver radio, and they seem to think it's time to trade DK, and I get it. There's 2 issues with that. First of all, if you trade DK, that is punting on the season for the Seattle Seahawks. This is a team that started 3-0, 3-3. You're not going to do that after a win against the Falcons. Now, if you lose to the Falcons, they may be in a different situation. The other element to this is, you're from Steelers country. Yeah. If we trade a receiver every time they start chirping, we will have 20 receiver trades a week. Right? Pickens, let's trade Pickens straight up. And then, here in Philly, A.J. Brown is mad about something, but he's pretending he's not mad. And then a couple weeks ago, Romeo Dobbs, and they settled.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
Right. And it's like, let's see in a week. I think you could picture Metcalf on some of these contenders really making a difference.
Yeah. I mean, just throwing some teams out there, like if you were to go to like Kansas City, someone like that who's like feels like they're a receiver away from. I mean, obviously the Chiefs are the name that everybody circles, but I don't know if you were to go to like Buffalo or something like okay, now you're really talking about the Bills. So, my thing with that is like, are the Seahawks a contender even with DK Metcalf? My answer is no. So if you feel like okay, we're kind of in this. And that's how I felt about Seattle coming into this year. It's like, okay, they're in that purgatory where like they aren't a bad team, but they're certainly not a contender. They're like, unfortunately, in that like 17-18 draft territory where they're like an 8-9 win team. You're not bad enough to get, the future quarterback. You're not good enough to be considered a contender. So maybe they just want to start that rebuild ahead of time. Because it's like fun as Geno is, and as much as the film guys love him because he throws a pretty deep ball and whatnot, like I'm not picking Geno to lead the Seahawks to a Super Bowl.
No, and again, I don't think he's on the rise by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
And when you're in that purgatory, you can't be like, well, we can't win the Super Bowl this year, so let's trade everybody. Like that's internet reasoning. Like if you're not one of these 4 teams, trade everybody now. Do a trade circuit. Obviously, you're like, hey, if we can come in as the wild card, second place in this division, win a playoff game, use that as a springboard. That's what they're thinking. Again, that's a situation that's going to change in the weeks to come. And a big part of that is You take a loss this week, you take a loss to another wild card head-to-head team that you might be dealing with down the road in Atlanta, and suddenly your probabilities have really shifted.
Yeah. The Bengals and the Browns. The Bengals played the most boring game I've ever seen against the Giants last Sunday night, where Joe Burrow turned into Caucasian Cunningham for a split second and ran for a long touchdown. And then the offense didn't do much else for the rest of the night. But the defense ended the longest streak in the NFL of not holding teams to less than double-digit points. They held the Giants to 7. So good for the defense that was really struggling so far this season. Now they play a Browns team where they consistently just lose in Cleveland. I have to go back and look at like the total streak or like the last like 15 years. They just consistently lose in Cleveland. So that's something to pay attention to. But they're 5.5-point favorites. If they lose this game, I don't. As much as I love the offense and everything, like that's just 2-5, man. It's hard to climb out of, especially to a Browns team that's dreadful and has punted on the season, as we pointed out.
Yeah, you're going to be 2-5. You're going to be 0-4 in the AFC. And I forget what you are in division. I don't want to go flip back right now.
Well, let's see. They've lost to Baltimore in the division, so the 0-2 in the division.
You're 0-2 in the division, and that was one of your gimmies right here.
Yeah,
they can't lose it. I don't think they're going to lose it. I think the Amari Cooper trade is like one of the pebbles that's going to make the avalanche happen. If the Browns aren't already in quit mode, and it's been feeling that way for the last couple of weeks, they're looking for that opportunity to quit. This will be it. Again, I watched a bunch of Deshaun this week, and I was laughing, I was crying, I was angry. I was
drinking. I was
drinking. I was smoking weed. I was just like, get me out of this experience. And you took away his number one. So Jerry Jeudy's the number one.
He sure is.
Offensive line's a mess. Nick Chubb maybe comes back. That's great. They're going to try to run the ball down the throat. They're already trying to do like this, like hardcore running system. That's not going to work against the Bengals. And I think the Bengals walk in this one, frankly.
Let's hope so. I wrote this for Sporting News yesterday. I think we're at the stage where the Browns need to like stage a mutiny against Deshaun Watson and Kevin Stefanski. And look, I put it in the piece too. Like we could talk about Stefanski being like basically held at gunpoint by Jimmy Haslam's like, you're going to start Deshaun Watson. But at the same time, man, and Verderam and I talked about this, like even if Stefanski's like, no, I'm going to bench him. What are you going to do? Fire Kevin Stefanski in favor of Deshaun Watson? That's going to be pretty see-through by the rest of the NFL. So I think
Coach of the Year awards in 5 years, we fired him. Like no one's going to see that. Like, yeah. And that's the thing. It takes a little bit of like it's easy for us to do sitting in our desk. But like, go into your boss's office and say, do this way or else and see what happens.
Yeah.
Stefanski could do that. Right. You'd be coaching the Bengals. You might have to move. You won't have to move next year. You could be, head coach 200 miles away.
I mean, hey, I know a team in Florida that will happily take Kevin Stefanski to pair with Trevor Lawrence. So there's, if Stefanski were to get fired, there's a list of teams that would happily fire their coach in favor of him. So, like, for me, that's why he's becoming equally as culpable and as much in the deep end as Haslam is to a lot of degrees, because, like, if he wanted to, he could end this, especially because he himself is like, any decision that comes to football goes through me. Then bench Deshaun Watson, Kevin. Like, what are we doing here?
Right. And I was joking with some of the guys on the Old Football Outsiders Discord, and I said inaccurately, like it wouldn't make a difference. That was inaccurate. Jameis Winston would have beaten the Eagles last week.
He would have.
Jameis Winston would have beaten the Eagles last week by doing very basic, competent quarterback stuff. And they took a loss as a result of that. And when losses like that pile up, I don't know how Stefanski looks around the locker room and says, well, guys, we're going with this because of this. And then he is getting it from both sides, where the players are grumbling and Haslam might be like, applying heat from above. And it's like, take a stand.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if Kevin Stefanski's a part of that, then great. Like, if Myles Garrett, Kevin Stefanski, and like Nick Chubb go to Haslam's office and be like, bench Deshaun, or like you could forget about us caring about this, then I think something would get done. But it's a whole mess right now. So you brought up your Eagles. They play the Giants this week. They're 3-point favorites on the road. I think the Giants stink. I think the Eagles are dysfunctional, but their talent alone should carry them in this game.
Right. Andrew Thomas is out probably for the year. So that takes out the Giants line was playing better this year. They really were. You take away one piece of that, I don't know where they go from there. Some injuries along the front. They look like they're probably getting those guys back. They might be getting Malik Neighbors back. Eagles injury situation is a mess. again, the Eagles are the better team, but check your local listings if you're looking at betting this and see who is really out there. I think if Jalen Carter is out there for the Eagles, he's on the injury list. I think that's your tipping point guy. Yeah, the Eagles should have no problem in this game.
Your boy Sirianni celebrating like he beat the 07 Patriots when he beat Deshaun Watson by 4 points, and then bringing his kid to a press conference to use as a shield of questions. How about that?
Did you see my my Photoshop brilliance on the 2 deep zone?
Did I not? Hold on.
Yeah, I'm gonna vent.
I might have missed that one.
2 deep zone. It's called Vikings and Ravens and puppies and kittens. It's the most recent one. It's the most recent one. So
okay, so it should be in my inbox right now. Then
in your inbox. That's why I'm vamping, and this is worth
beautiful.
It. Because my Photoshop skills have reached the point they're practically deep fakes. They are practically, you can look at this and say, I did not know that JFK and Taylor Swift were ever on stage together at the same time. He's amazing, and I demonstrated. You have to scroll down a bit, but I demonstrated what the Nick Sirianni press conference looked like.
I found it. Yeah. Jesus Lord.
Hold it up to the screen to show what again, it's a deep fake. It is a deep fake. That looks real. That looks as real as anything you'll see on Facebook. That Nick Sirianni brought puppies, kittens, Jesus, Buddha, Taylor Swift, the American flag, some babies, some bunnies with him and his own children. But he was not trying to deflect criticism. That's not what he was trying to do.
Goodness gracious.
They all happen to be in the neighborhood, and they stopped by and wanted to be part of an Eagles press conference.
I mean, we just talked about, a team in Florida that would love Kevin Stefanski. I mean, I'm sure the Eagles would love Kevin Stefanski should the time come where Nick Sirianni, in a war where he gets fired.
I want Kellen Moore to wander away from another disaster and onto some other team where they have an offensive head coach, and like the team starts falling apart, and it's like, well, that Kellen Moore is doing a hell of a job. He's doing a hell of a job. He never gets the head coaching job, and the team never does well. But he made the slot receiver go in motion. That was amazing.
Yeah, he moved the slot receiver, and it didn't really do a whole lot, but he knows what motion is, so we feel like he could be our guy.
Yeah, Jahan Dotson has 2 catches, but he's a master of
what a trade that was, by the way. Jesus Lord.
You swapped the third for a fifth too, but Jalen doesn't seem to have any interest in Jahan.
No, whatsoever. And look, Jahan Dotson had a fun rookie year where he caught 7 touchdowns on 33 catches. A fifth of his catches were touchdowns, and then he's really just slidden down since then.
He's slot guy. He's okay. Slot guy. Samuel's the same guy. You just got to this guy's amazing. It's like he will catch a drag route for you and turn up field for 5 yards.
Good stuff. Chiefs 49ers. That's the other big one on the Sunday slate. I don't know, man. The 49ers are. What are they? What are they to you?
They're a perennial Super Bowl contender that tripped over their feet a couple times early in this year and are trying to morph before our eyes. They're trying to morph to a downfield passing team when they were a yak and protect the quarterback team. And I don't know if they've completed the transition.
I think that they are right now Batman and the Dark Knight Rises, where they're in a weird phase where they're all right, we're going to try to do this. We'll see how it goes. When Batman becomes Batman again and he's very wonky, he eventually gets his back broken by Bane. That's kind of what happened with the 49ers when they blew a fourth quarter lead to the Rams and then lost to the Cardinals. I think that we're kind of seeing them try to work their way back and heal their back to get, back to who we're accustomed to them being. But right now they're very much trapped in a deep pit somewhere at the other side of the country trying to climb their way out.
Yeah, you know what? We've seen so little of them since those 2 losses. They went out against the Seahawks. That was a week ago Thursday. They took a big lead. They tried to make some effort to cough it up, but they weren't able to quite cough it up at this time. And nothing coming out of that said, oh, they are back. They are just a team to beat in this conference. And that's kind of where they are. They are not the team to beat in this conference right now. They are kind of not that different a place really than the Eagles are, though I think they played better than the Eagles. And we're going to see a lot against the Chiefs this week. I have a feeling they just go out there and they storm out there and they try to make this statement type victory against the Chiefs. And the statement is, "Aha, revenge, revenge!" And the Chiefs are like, "Hey, maybe we'll see you guys again in February."
Yeah, I think that
great,
we've seen plenty of teams do that too. Where a few years ago against the Bengals, Spags didn't do anything fun defensively. He sat in the exact same look all game because he knew, we're probably going to see these guys again in the playoffs, so I'm not going to like show them anything fun. And then they did see them in the playoffs, and lo and behold, they won. I think it could be very similar with that. To me, right now, the Chiefs are like Walker, Texas Ranger, where like they're old, they're boring, but somehow they always win at the end. And it's just like, all right, man, I've seen this episode plenty of times before. It's just a different cast of characters and a different case. We know Chuck Norris is going to do some fun kicks and somehow pull out a victory and, defeat the evildoers of Texas. That's what the Chiefs are right now. They become like not early good Walker, Texas Ranger. This is like 1999 Walker, Texas Ranger, where it's just like, oh, okay, Chuck's getting a little bit old and this is a really played out thing.
That was a deep Walker, Texas Ranger, season by season cut. Like Brock Purdy's going to walk out. Walker told me I have AIDS.
Oh, no.
Might want to cut that. I don't know. That's an internet meme. We all know what that's a reference to. I am not actually, endorsing the idea, and we should make fun of children with AIDS, but make fun of a episode of Walker, Texas Ranger.
Oh my God, that episode.
Deaf, yes.
Oh.
But
that's funny.
You a Chuck Norris fan?
So like when I was in like 6th, 7th grade, I had this infatuation with Walker, Texas Ranger, and it was always on like Ion TV or WGN when I'd come home from school. So I would just turn it on, and that's what I would watch when I got home from school.
There's a station that caters to old people, and Walker is always on before Star Trek. So I'll catch the last 5 minutes of an episode of Walker, which is usually Chuck kickboxing one bad guy and then delivering a speech, and then we roll to credits.
That's basically all it is. He like has his gun out, holsters it, and just kicks people. That's Walker, Texas Ranger in a nutshell.
Right, and it's delightful to watch in its own weird, corny '90s TV.
Yeah.
Right? But to get back to the Chiefs, this is a team with a strong defense and a strong offensive line and a Hall of Fame quarterback. And we kind of lose track of the fact that they have a really strong defense and a strong offensive line, and it creates a drivetrain that allows Mahomes to play at that stratospheric level, not just like at a high level or a good level, or he doesn't have the weapons. What are you going to do? He's not in that situation, even when he doesn't have the weapons, because he's got better protection overall. He's got a good defense, and again, I feel like they're going to take this loss because I don't think that they match up particularly well. I think that they're trying to wait and see in terms of getting some guys back, maybe make a move at the deadline, get Pacheco back. This is their most losable game because it's an out-of-conference opponent that's not going to have any tiebreakers for them.
Traveling to the West Coast to play it too, so like it's
right. Right.
All right. Ravens Bucks on Monday night. That should be a very fun one. Baker Mayfield leads the NFL in touchdowns. How about that? I found it crazy too. But
a lot of catch and run. A lot.
But hey, man, like Liam Cohen, what he's done with the offense, I mean, it's been very good. Todd Bowles defensively has been very hit and miss. Like against the Eagles, they just put Jalen Hurts in a blender, but against Atlanta and Kirk Cousins, they gave up 1 trillion yards.
Yeah.
And last week against the Saints, I mean, what a roller coaster of a game that was. We're like, okay, they're up. Oh, the Saints have scored 27 unanswered. That's pretty crazy. We'll score 28 unanswered to really put this thing away. I think that Tampa, I don't think they're going to win. But this is a team that I was very wrong on. I thought that they would take a little bit of a step back after Canales left, but Liam Cohen's come in and made the offense probably better, and Baker looks really good. So kudos to them for that. But their defense worries me in terms of their consistency. And I think that Baltimore will be able to take advantage of that.
I think their defense didn't play that badly last week. It was 2 Mayfield interceptions. That was 10 points because he gave the ball away. It was a return touchdown, etc. I think they're like a slightly above average defense overall. I think they're a slightly above average offense overall, and I think they play pretty well complementary, and that gets them to these wins, especially against more vulnerable opponents. Although they did take a loss to the Buccaneers. But yeah, you're right. Cohen has done an amazing job. Their running game isn't this complete afterthought anymore. I think Bucky Irving's a lot of that. Yeah, he's a lot of that, but I think it's just schematically, it's not these very predictable runs. The runs are mixed in better. They're doing more with it, and they are getting the ball short, especially to Godwin, but to some of these other guys as well. Shepard was a big factor a couple of weeks ago. Sterling Shepard still in the NFL, who knew? And that's made for a very strong Buccaneers team. You're right. I'm taking the Ravens in this one.
Yeah, and and like you said, like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are still doing Mike Evans and Chris Godwin's thing,
Yeah.
but like, you know, Trey Palmer has had like a few games this year where he's been, you know, a vital part in it. The running game has come alive. I think it'll be a fun game. And I think it'll be competitive, but when it comes to the Ravens, like eventually they're going to be able to turn, like they've turned Derrick Henry a little bit into, I don't want to say a closer because they seem to always make games close at the end. I feel like he's just like a really top tier starting pitcher. He's like their Paul Skeens right now. We're like, okay, we're going to come at you heavy to start the game. We don't have a really good bullpen though. So whenever the game gets late, you might have a chance to come back. I think that'll be somewhat similar where the Ravens are up like 14-3. Buccaneers will start building up some momentum, but the Ravens will be able to close it out in the end.
And that's it. I kind of think of Henry as the closer. They lead the league in like fourth quarter rushing. And it's not just that they're just pounding the balls, like they're averaging like 6 yards a carry. The Commanders game was a great example of Henry coming in as a closer and saying, oh, they've got 2 timeouts and there's 3 minutes left in the game. Don't worry, I'm going to get a couple first downs. That's it. A little bit of that against the Bengals where he got a couple of big runs in the overtime.
Yeah.
So that is a factor that he gives them. And when we do the running backs don't matter thing, running backs matter in all these marginal ways. And one of them is, can you close out a game when you're only leading by 3 or leading by 7? 2 first downs can be a huge difference because that can mean, you know, a 6-minute swing or whatever. And that's what Henry gives them that they didn't have in years past, mostly because Dobbins was always injured.
Yeah.
Needed them.
Quick on the 2 remaining games.
I forgot there was this other Monday night game. Like, I forgot it existed.
Yeah, like Chargers and like, do we need this? Monday night doubleheaders suck. Do we really need this?
See, years ago, they used to have Monday night doubleheaders in week 1, and the second game always started.
I remember that because Mike Golick and Mike Greenberg would do the play-by-play for it on ESPN, and it would usually be like a Raiders game because they would do it on the West Coast.
It was the Chargers live. I used to go midnight with the Chargers, and we're back because that game will still be going at midnight. I won't be watching it. I wouldn't be watching it if I plan to stay awake. I'll be watching the Buccaneers Ravens, and I'll just check the score once in a while. But
yeah, I don't understand the need for 2 Monday night games. I think it's dumb, and the whole thing is just for like the Disney Corporation to just jerk themselves off and prop up their combined viewership numbers.
ABC needs. So this one's on NFL Plus. ABC needs the content.
Oh, okay.
ABC is Abbott Elementary and Celebrity Jeopardy, and then the rest of the time, I think it might be a test pattern. It might be a test pattern when it's Abbott Elementary, Celebrity Jeopardy, and Celebrity Family Feud. Not Family Feud, Wheel of Fortune. That's all they've got. So another Monday night game means a lot for them. I'm surprised this one's going to be on the Plus, but you got to sell subscriptions.
They don't have Modern Family reruns that they can show?
I think Modern Family reruns are on the same channel now as Walker, Texas Ranger.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff altogether. All right, fine. All right. Yeah, overall, I think that the Cardinals charge that would be fine. I'm not going to watch this if I don't have to.
Next game.
Yeah. Commanders, Panthers. Commanders, I'm taking Jaden Daniels to rebound and lead the Commanders to victory. Defensively, that's been their biggest Achilles heel. I think that they did all they could against Baltimore. But playing a Panthers team, they'll win this game and stay atop the NFC East.
Yeah, people have lost track of how the Panthers are still bad and have a lot of injuries on defense. And by people, I mean myself, because I haven't done an injury report lately. But I know they had a lot of guys missing.
Just lost Jonathan Allen.
On the Panthers side, the Panthers.
Oh, okay.
Clowney was hurt for a while. One of their corners was hurt. It wasn't J.C. Horn, but it was one of the other guys. Like they've been missing guys steadily. They've also been losing guys on the offensive line. I'm just looking. 51.5 is too high and over. What I'm looking for in this game are Jaden Daniels props.
Oh, good shout. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm looking at this now. You can get over 250 passing yards at plus 115.
It's pretty solid.
Anytime touchdown score minus 125. But I might take it. Minus 125. Why not? That's just a bet. That's just a regular old bet. I think the Commanders win this game. I don't know if their defense goofs around and the final score winds up being 27-20 or whatever. But I love Daniel's props right now because I don't think the Panthers can stop anybody. I know the Commanders can't, but Andy Dalton props.
Yeah, if you're looking at Andy Dalton props, call the hotline immediately. That's a sign, my friend. Yes. All right, Vegas and the Rams. These are two boring teams right now because the Rams are hurt to hell. The Raiders are starting Aiden O'Connell. and Max Crosby's the only other guy on that team worth a piss. No disrespect to the Raiders. But yeah, this is a game that is very missable. I'll take the Rams, though.
I would call that Colton Miller erasure. And I was going to complain about one of the linebackers, but I can't remember his name.
Oh, you mean Cheddar Bob Spillane. You know what? Sorry, Robert Spillane. You are also good.
The Hammer.
He's very good.
He's very good. But right, in terms of, and Adams is gone now.
Yeah.
I feel like the Rams take this. Rams are coming off the bye, as I recall.
Yeah.
Now they're not getting their guys healthy back just yet, but like the infrastructure of the team, the drivetrain of the team is still playing pretty well despite all the injuries. They're throwing scares into opponents. I think they can beat a very depleted and very Aiden O'Connell led, like directionless. That would be a good way to the Raiders.
Yes. Right, that is a team that walks into oncoming traffic without looking both ways every week. They are directionless. That's a good way to put them. Okay. All right. I think that is every game on the slate. Go and read Mike's latest piece on 2 Deep Zone. What else have you got coming on there that everybody should go check out?
Well, we got walkthrough coming on Monday with all the games action. I then plan to do whoever loses that Lou Bowl, not a toilet bowl because you're in England. Lou Bowl between the Patriots and the Jaguars will probably get Tank Watch next week. So yeah, and Tank Watch is a fan favorite. People love hearing me make fun of. So maybe I'll be making fun of Robert Kraft. Maybe I'll be making fun of Shad Khan and Tony Khan. Who knows?
Oh, I love Tony Khan, though. I do love me some
I love
Tony
it.
Khan.
And he's like probably the only NFL personality who might wind up reading what I write about him. So I have to be very careful. But hey, if he's going to walk around wearing his his neck brace after getting body slammed, he knows what
pro wrestling's real to me, damn it.
Right. Well, it's real to me too on Tank Watch. So
I love it.
To play.
I love it. Yeah. From me going. Yeah. Go read the quarterbacks piece on SB Nation. Did a real deep dive into Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Geno Smith.
Nice.
And how cast-off quarterbacks kind of having these resurrections could change the way that the NFL looks at quarterback play as a whole. And also a lot of connective tissue between those three. So that was a fun piece to write. And yeah, all the stuff on sporting news, keep up with that as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to it wherever you get your podcast, leave a comment. I'll read all of them as I always do. Mike Tanier, I love you dearly, and I will talk to you soon. I will talk to all of you soon on the Pump Fang. Thank you so much for tuning in as always.